The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not be taken as medical advice. Before making a health decision, please consult with a qualified medical professional. Thank you for your attention and enjoy today's episode. What is up, good people of the internet? My name is Tony, and you're currently tuned into Hemp Nerd, the podcast that clarifies how safe and effective cannabis therapy is so you can have a smoother road to recovery. Now, in today's particular episode, we're going to be answering the question, can you take CBD oil with Effexor XR and is it safe? Now, if you're familiar with the show, you already know what the process is going to be like. But if you're new to Hemp Nerd, then what I normally like to do first is actually understand what we're dealing with. So I'm going to spend a bit of time understanding what Effexor XR is, what it's used for, and if there are any side effects or withdrawal symptoms from it. And then from there, we're going to shift the conversation into whether or not you can take it with CBD oil in regards to how safe it is for you to do so. So with that said, let's get into today's episode. So to kick things off, the first thing we're going to do is answer the simple question, what is Effexor XR and what is it used for? So Effexor XR is an SNRI antidepressant. If you don't know, SNRI stands for Serotonin Norepinephrine Reuptake Inhibitor, and you're going to understand why in a moment. And XR basically stands for extended release. Now, extended release basically means that your medication is slowly released over time in your body. And what Effexor XR does is when it releases itself in your body, it blocks your neurotransmitters serotonin and norepinephrine from being reabsorbed by your neurons. Hence the name SNRI, or the class of antidepressant that it is. So serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor basically means it's inhibiting or blocking your body from reabsorbing serotonin and norepinephrine. When the medication actually does do that, it's making those two neurotransmitters or chemical messengers more abundant in your body. And the reason for making that more abundant in your body is because, the medical community believes that having those two neurotransmitters more abundant in your body is actually going to improve your mood and all that kind of jazz, which we're going to get into in a moment. Now, the main active ingredient in Effexor XR is venlafaxine hydrochloride. It is used to treat conditions such as major depressive disorder, general anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, and panic disorder. Alright, so the idea behind Effexor XR is that serotonin and norepinephrine is made abundant in your system to improve your mood, to improve your energy levels, and to help restore your interest in daily living, supposedly, right? And you see why I'm saying that. Now, in addition to that, the drug, obviously, like I mentioned earlier, is slowly released, and the reason for that is so that, you potentially might experience fewer side effects. Due to the drug levels remaining consistent over time in your body, as opposed to when you taking drugs and it's spiking and then dropping, and then you take more drugs and it spikes and then drops again. So the XR means slow release or extended release. So it's the drug levels are consistent, which may reduce the side effects, but I'm not 100% sure about that. When we get into the side effect profile of Effexor XR, you're gonna see basically what I see where I kind of don't see a point actually taking this drug, regardless of the promise that it has. The promise that it has, it comes with so much baggage in regards to the side effects, and you see in a moment. So that is actually the perfect segue into the next section, which is what are the side effects associated with Effexor XR. So first of all, let me say this. It's commonplace, right, at the moment that most, if not all, pharmaceutical drugs come with some form or some amount of negative side effects. And obviously, Effexor XR is no exception to that because it actually comes with quite a lot of side effects. So what I've done is I've broken up Effexor XR's side effects into 4 groups. They are the common side effects. Then you have what I call the worsening side effects. And then you have the severe side effects, and you also have something I call the exclusive side effects. All right. So just depending on obviously your biochemical makeup and how your body responds or reacts to Effexor XR, you might fall in one, if not multiple of these categories. Now, on top of this, there's also a likelihood of you getting a condition called Serotonin Syndrome, which I'm also going to address later on. But if you're familiar with this, then you kind of already know just how bad serotonin syndrome can be, or how bad it can manifest if you do get it. But for now, let's start by looking at the side effects that come with Effexor XR by starting with the common side effects. So what does the common side effect profile of Effexor XR actually look like? So common side effects include nausea, drowsiness and yawning, trouble sleeping, aka insomnia, dizziness, dry mouth, constipation, loss of appetite, blurred vision, nervousness, increased sweating, increased blood pressure, and decreased libido. So your decreased sex drive, impotence as well, premature ejaculation, and difficulty gaining orgasm. All right, already there, I'm out. Like, I don't want to take this drug regardless of how my mental health condition is. I'm not touching Effexor XR. But hey, look, you could be different. But let's continue the conversation and see where this goes. Now, if you thought that list was bad, right? Effexor XR also comes with what's called the worsening side effects. But one of the main highlighted items here is that your depression. So if you're taking Effexor XR for depression or anxiety, it could actually worsen your condition instead of making it better. So that's part of the worsening side effect profile that Effexor XR has. Now, the other items included on the list, in fact, I'll just go through the entire list now. So the worsening side effect profile of Effexor XR, so this is on top of the common side effects that we just went through, includes mood or behavior changes, anxiety and panic attacks, insomnia again, or trouble sleeping, impulsiveness, irritability and agitation, hostility and aggressiveness, restlessness, hyperactivity, that's mental and physical, all right, self-harm and suicidal thoughts. All right, that's already looking, it's already you make up your own mind. I'm not going to try and convince you of anything, right? So next up, we have what we call the severe side effect profile. So like I said, there's 4 groups. So the next up is the severe side effect profile. With this side effect profile, if you do experience any one of these conditions, it's actually advised, or any one of these side effects, it's actually advised that you go and seek professional medical assistance ASAP. All right, it's advised that if you experience any one of these, which I'm about to go through just now, you have to go see a doctor as quickly as you possibly can. All right, so what does this list look like? So the severe side effect profile starts with blurred vision or tunnel vision, eye pain or swelling, seeing halos around lights. Then you've got easy bruising or bleeding, nosebleeds, bleeding gums, blood in your urine and or stool, and coughing up blood as well. Then you've got chest tightness, trouble breathing and coughing. And then you have the low sodium levels, which makes you have headaches, confusion, slurred speech, severe weakness, vomiting, loss of coordination, feeling unsteady, and that's all due to low sodium levels caused by Effexor XR's severe side effect profile. Then you also have severe nervous system reaction, or you may have a severe nervous system reaction. So this will include things like very stiff or rigid muscles, high fever, sweating, confusion, fast or uneven heartbeats, tremors, and feeling like you're about to pass out. And of course, you could also get seizures or convulsions. Again, this drug is not looking pretty. Again, it promises that it's going to help alleviate the symptoms of anxiety and depression, but it could also worsen those symptoms. It could also give you a whole bag of new side effects or new symptoms that you didn't have before, and it could even make things so bad that you have to go see a doctor. You'd be coughing and pooping blood and all that. Ugh, disgusting. Anyway, let's move on. Now, something I need to mention before we get to the exclusive side effect profile is that you may get a condition called Serotonin Syndrome as well. So this is on top of all the side effects that the 4 categories of side effects. There's also a likelihood that you might get Serotonin Syndrome as well. So Serotonin Syndrome is basically when there's too much serotonin in your system, in your body and your brain. If you got too much serotonin and overabundance of serotonin in your system, then you will experience the following effects, right? Agitation, hallucinations, fever, sweating and shivering, a sped up heart rate, right? Muscle stiffness, twitching, loss of coordination, nausea and vomiting, and diarrhea. All right, so this is again on top of, we've gone through three side effect profile, or three categories of the side effects that you could get with Effexor XR. On top of that, you could get Serotonin Syndrome, which is that list that I've just gone through. That's what it looks like. And it is also advised that if you do get Serotonin Syndrome, if you start experiencing any of that, especially hallucinations, like go see a doctor. Or I mean, personally, I wouldn't even touch this drug. Based on my research and looking it up and seeing what it does, I wouldn't touch it at all. I'd rather deal with my depression. I'd rather use meditation and prayer and positive social interactions to deal with my depression and to deal with my anxiety. I'd rather like eat clean, train mean, focus on my mind-spirit connection, have positive social interactions, and just do the things that on paper look boring, right? On paper, this stuff looks boring. On paper, it looks like it's going to take too long. But in reality, it's the thing that's actually really good for you, and the results could kick in faster than you actually realize, as opposed to taking a pill that's going to make things a whole lot worse. All right, so we have what we call the final category, which is called the exclusive side effect profile. So the reason why I call this the exclusive side effect profile, because it's exclusive to people under the age of 25. So it is said that if you're under the age of 25 and you take Effexor XR, which is an SNRI antidepressant, your guardians or your parents are first told that they need to pay close attention to you. They need to watch you to look out for any changes in your behavior. But you will most likely experience, again, worsening depression, suicidal thoughts, and potential self-harm. And if you don't know what self-harm is, if you've ever heard of someone cutting themselves for no apparent reason, that's what self-harm is. So that would most likely happen to you if you're under the age of 25. So this is exclusive to anyone under the age of 25. So on top of everything else that we've covered, on top of the common side effects, on top of the worsening side effects, on top of serotonin syndrome, and what was the other one? On top of the severe side effects, we've also got this exclusive side effect profile if you're under the age of 25. So this is not looking good. So doctors, like I've mentioned, doctors and carers advise to make sure that if you're under the age of 25, you do take Effexor XR, get people to monitor you, because maybe you might not be aware that these changes are happening. Maybe you are aware that these changes are happening, but you need to be monitored to make sure that these, you don't fall victim to these side effects, especially the exclusive ones. Now, are there any withdrawal symptoms with Effexor XR? Let's say if you've been taking it and you're looking at stopping, and maybe you're looking at stopping cold turkey because you just can't take the side effects anymore, or maybe you're watching this and this is actually putting you off taking it again. Yes, there are withdrawal symptoms that actually come with Effexor XR. Okay, so what you need to understand about Effexor XR is that it is a synthetic drug. It doesn't matter if it's legal or illegal. The fact is it is synthetic. So it could be just as bad for you as, let's say, heroin or cocaine in regards to withdrawal symptoms. And what I mean by that is the longer you take it, the more intense the withdrawal symptoms are going to be. And with the withdrawal symptoms, I split them, or you can split them actually into two groups. One being the physiological withdrawal symptoms, so things that you're going to experience with your body. And the second group is the cognitive or psychological cognitive withdrawal symptoms, so mostly in your brain, right? So let's go through the list of physiological withdrawal symptoms first to see what that looks like, so you can have an understanding. Physiological, so with your body, you have flu-like symptoms, fatigue, muscle pain, headaches, imbalance, all right? So like try imbalance from trying to walk, won't be able to walk straight, I guess. Nausea, sweating, restlessness, high blood pressure, abnormal sensory disturbances, and dizziness. And I guess the dizziness would contribute to the imbalance. And then the list of cognitive withdrawal symptoms include nightmares, right, or excessive dreams, but nightmares seems to be like the big highlighted one there. Concentration problems, so you won't be able to focus. Worsening depression and anxiety, again, the condition that you're trying to treat is actually going to get worse. Confusion, narcolepsy, cataplexy, which is a loss of muscle tone triggered by strong emotion, and psychosis. Now that we understand just how we are not just how bad it is, that's what I was going to say, but now that we understand what we're dealing with, all right, I'm trying to be as liberal as possible. Now that we understand what we're actually dealing with in regards to Effexor XR, we can now tackle the question of the day, which is, can you take CBD oil with Effexor XR? To maybe, and your goal, your motivation could be to lessen the impact of the side effects that it comes with, or your goal could be to actually wean yourself off Effexor XR. So again, the impact of the withdrawal symptoms are not as bad, and maybe take advantage of using CBD oil for your anxiety and your depression. So can you take CBD oil with Effexor XR? Now, from a safety perspective, I would say no. Do not take CBD oil with Effexor XR. It's not safe to actually add the two together, purely because of just how detrimental Effexor XR is. And the risk of something going wrong when you actually put the two together is extremely high. And I'll tell you why I say that. When you mix CBD oil and Effexor XR together, one of three things could happen, or a combination of the three, or two of the three things could happen. But let's keep it simple. One of three things could happen. One, you could experience heightened side effects. So whatever side effects you're experiencing right now, they could become more intense. Two, you could actually experience, and part of heightened side effects, you could also experience a wider variety of side effects. So instead of just the side effects that you're experiencing already becoming more intense, you could introduce basically more side effects. So that list, maybe you're experiencing 2 or 3 of them, that list could expand to 5 or 6, because maybe because you're taking CBD oil with Effexor XR. I'm going to get into why that's the case, like why this would happen. But first, I want to share with you what would happen. So you'd experience a wider variety of side effects as well, from 2 to 3, you move up to maybe 5 or 6 of the side effects. Secondly, you could also increase your risk of getting serotonin syndrome if that hasn't hit. All right, and of course, you could also increase the intensity of the symptoms that come with serotonin syndrome. And I'm going to explain exactly why this would happen as well. And lastly, you could also potentially get liver failure. All right, because you might be overwhelming your liver by giving yourself CBD oil and Effexor XR at the same time. And this all ties into one specific reason. But don't listen or watch this and feel like, oh, hope is lost, or I should just stick with Effexor XR, because there is a way that I found that a few medical professionals who are pro cannabis are talking about, where you can actually take CBD oil strategically and carefully to help wean yourself off any pharmaceutical drugs. Specifically in this case, we're looking at antidepressants. Any antidepressants that you're taking, there is a strategy that I'm going to go through that I've seen a lot of pro cannabis medical professionals talk about in their own spaces. So I'm kind of taking that information, put it together, and I'm going to give it to you in this episode. And what I'm working on as well is maybe like a PDF or something like that, where you can actually download this process, and you can then implement it if you've got no medical professionals around you, or it's very hard to get a pro cannabis medical professional around you, more specifically. So hopefully this process can help if you're looking at taking matters into your own hands and going down the path of self-treatment. How risky is it to take CBD oil with Effexor XR? So what you need to understand initially, right? So the reason why I mentioned all those things at the beginning, the heightened side effects, the wider variety of side effects, the serotonin syndrome, liver failure, even heightened symptoms of serotonin syndrome as well. The reason why I mentioned all of that at the beginning is because up to 80% of all pharmaceutical drugs are actually broken down or metabolized in your liver. And this is done by a group of enzymes called cytochrome P450, or CYP450 for short. Now, the drugs your liver breaks down, it obviously includes, Effexor XR or venlafaxine, which is the active ingredient inside the Effexor XR, as well as the cannabinoids. So CBD and THC, which are the most dominant and most popular cannabinoids, whether it's in the recreational or the medical community, those are the main cannabinoids. They are also broken down by the same group of enzymes in your liver, the cytochrome P450. So because of this reason, you may induce, if you take CBD oil and Effexor XR together, you may induce a condition or a mechanism, should I say, called competitive inhibition. So this is where your cannabinoids from your CBD oil together with your medication, which is Effexor XR in this case, all start competing for the same metabolic enzymes. What's most likely going to happen, or should I say the worst case scenario that could happen here, is that CBD and THC will end up blocking Effexor XR from being broken down, or the chemicals or venlafaxine that's inside Effexor XR will prevent that from being broken down, because CBD and THC are winning, I guess, the competition, and they're being broken down and they're taking up all the spots. The effect of that happening is that you're going to have too much of the Effexor XR serum in your system. When you have too much of that in your system, that's when the side effects kick in. Of course, you're going to have the side effects whether it gets broken down or not. But then this is when the side effects get heightened. All right, this is when you get because you've got an overabundance of Effexor XR in your system as well. This is when you also experience a wider variety of the side effects that it comes with. Next, as well, because of competitive inhibition in your liver, having an overabundance of Effexor XR in your system would mean that because it's a serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor, this may make you have too much serotonin become available as well, or overabundant in your system. And when that happens, there's a higher risk of you getting serotonin syndrome, because again, CBD and THC, those cannabinoids, are blocking Effexor XR from being broken down in your liver. So that's another reason. It's the same reason, like the fact that this competitive inhibition is the same reason that could cause or a combination of these things. And lastly, the one I want to touch on is that you could also experience liver failure, because I don't know how strong your liver is. I don't know if you've got a drinking history or not. If you have, then most likely your liver is weak. And then if on top of that, if you've got depression and then you're taking Effexor XR and then you decide to take CBD oil on top of that, you most likely will be overwhelming your liver. And if you overwhelm your liver, you're going to experience liver failure and possible liver damage. If you're drinking, you may already have some level of liver damage, but then this could just tip you over the edge. Liver failure is described as a loss of liver function caused by a multitude of reasons, including the ones I've just mentioned. But some of the causes that are related to what I'm talking about, which I've written on my blog, which you can go check out at HempNerd.co, is prescription drug use, herbal supplements, toxins, and overwhelming your liver function. And this is just to name a few. So liver failure occurs when liver cells are damaged and can no longer perform their function of breaking down stuff, metabolizing stuff, basically. Just for your personal interest, what are the symptoms of liver failure? So you might get jaundice, or you have jaundice, which is the yellowing of your skin and your eyeballs, pain in your upper right abdomen, right? Abdominal swelling, nausea, vomiting, a general sense of feeling unwell, disorientation or confusion, and sleepiness. So those are the risks involved with you taking CBD oil and Effexor XR, especially if you take them together. You might, again, heighten side effects, wider variety of side effects, increased risk of serotonin syndrome, and liver failure. That's what may occur if you take them together, which is why I personally believe it's not safe for you to take them together. But what if you want to wean yourself off Effexor XR? Or what if you want to reduce the side effects of Effexor XR, right? Is there a safe way of doing that? And of course there is. But what I need to let you know first up is that the medical community is actually split as to whether there's a safe way of taking CBD oil with any antidepressant, including Effexor XR. Anti-cannabis medical professionals argue that SNRIs such as Effexor XR and cannabis both have psychoactive effects in humans. Hence, it's their belief that if you take them together, that may cause a negative psychoactive reaction, a negative psychoactive effect if you do that. However, pro-cannabis medical professionals argue that cannabis is generally safe to take with SNRIs or to take with it, such as Effexor XR, right? Provided, though, that you are strategic and careful with your approach. If not, then you are at risk of experiencing adverse effects caused by drug interactions already covered in this podcast, already covered just now, okay? So, how can you be careful and strategic? What does that actually look like to prevent you from hurting yourself, basically, to prevent you from harming yourself through drug interactions? So, what pro-cannabis medical professionals normally recommend is, or generally recommend, is to abide by these following steps that I've kind of put together. Normally it's 4, but I'll put 5 because you see why. I think if you implement all 5 of these, then you are on a smoother road to recovery. Okay. So the first one is, spacing out the time between your drug administrations. Generally, you're advised to give at least 1 to 3 hours, especially if you're starting with, let's say you're starting with Effexor XR, right? Give it 1 to 3 hours, especially with it. Another thing, Effexor XR is a slow release one. So that one could, I don't know if it metabolizes slower as well, or maybe it metabolizes but then releases slower. So that side of things, I don't know how that actually works exactly. But generally speaking, give yourself 1 to 3 hours, especially if you're starting with the pharmaceutical stuff first, for that to metabolize. Personally, if I was, and this is personal, right? This is not a recommendation or anything like that, or it's not even a suggestion. This is just my personal take on this. If I had depression, I've been taking Effexor XR for a while. I'm trying to wean myself off because I can't stand the side effects anymore. And I'm taking CBD, or I'm about to take CBD oil, or I'm about to buy some, or I do buy some or have some, and it's like, all right, let's get the show on the road. I would be starting with CBD oil first because it's not a slow release. It's not because Effexor XR is extended or slow release. CBD oil isn't. So I'll be starting with CBD oil first to get that to metabolize and give that the 1 to 3 hours. And then after that, once that's metabolized, then I would have Effexor XR. And that's only if I need it, because there are studies to show that CBD oil is good for anxiety. I haven't listed them in this particular, in this blog post, so I'm not going to go through them in this podcast, because when answering the question I didn't see the need to do so, because we're looking at the safety aspect or the safety profile, let me just say the safety aspect of putting the two together. The second strategy that pro-cannabis doctors recommend is to microdose, right? So if you're not familiar with what microdosing is, that's basically taking the minimum amount of a substance to gain the maximum benefit it can provide. So in the case of cannabis, for example, with cannabis or medical marijuana or what have you, you could take a minimum amount to reduce your anxiety and depression symptoms. If it is one that has THC in it, then you would not get a high. You would not experience a high. You would not get a high because they're taking a minimum amount, not enough to actually trigger a high, but it's enough for you to actually gain the benefit of reduced anxiety and reduced depression. And what's normally recommended for to start off with microdosing is about 2 to 3 milligrams of CBD oil. That's what's normally, in fact, for most products that people microdose, about 2 to 3 milligrams to start, and then the average dose range the average microdose dose range is 3 to 10 milligrams per serve. All right, so microdosing, in summary, enables you to experience the benefits, in this case of CBD oil, without getting high if your THC concentration from the product that you've bought is a bit much. All right. Now, the third strategy doctors recommend is to slowly increase your dosage over time. Now, in a practical setting, this means increasing your CBD oil dosage slightly every couple of days, but still paying close attention to the effects you experience as well. So, for example, if you start feeling lethargic or dizzy after a dose increase, then you should actually reduce your dosage to a point where you don't feel those symptoms anymore. You don't feel lethargic. You don't feel dizzy anymore. And stay there for a while until your body adapts, and then once your body adapts, try and increase again and see what happens. But you're doing it very slowly. You're not doing it recklessly, if that makes sense. The fourth strategy doctors recommend is to track and record all your actions and your results in a personal medical journal or a personal journal, right? To me, I personally believe like having a personal journal that you consult with every day on your medical journey, on your road to recovery, is one of the most valuable tools you can have, especially dealing with medical marijuana, especially dealing with cannabis therapy, CBD oil. It's one of the most valuable tools you can have, because it's not accepted as mainstream medicine yet. We're not there yet as a society. Until we get there, and we need to take things into our own hands. And having a medical journal or having a personal journal for medical purposes allows you to keep like a tight lid on what's actually going on with you medically, right? So you're not leaving any room for mistakes. Yes, you're seeing exactly what you're doing, what you're using, how you're using it, how much of it that you're using, and what effects it's having, and how many times you're using it, the frequency of use throughout the day. You're being very meticulous with your approach, to the point that if you had to sit in front of a pro-cannabis medical doctor, you had to find one, and you pulled out your journal, you'd be making their job so much easier, so much easier. And it's just the mature thing to do. I mean, it's your health at the end of the day. Why wouldn't you want to journal everything? Why wouldn't you want to have a record of what you're taking, how much you're taking, how often you're taking, and what effects it's having on you, whether it's improving or making your symptoms worse, instead of just leaving things to chance. This is just my personal view, but when it comes to dealing with my health and my body, and just my health in general, whether it's my psychological health, my physical health, my spiritual health, even my financial health, I don't leave things to chance. I track everything, track all my actions, track all my results, see what's working, see what's not working, eliminate what's not working, keep what's working, and try and improve on what's currently working. So that's the same mindset, attitude, and approach you should have when it comes to actually dealing with this medical marijuana or CBD oil to treat your condition. You have to kind of it's in a roundabout way, kind of have to be your own doctor, to the point until the medical marijuana becomes more mainstream. This will enable you to just stay on top of things, and then when you do get to start working with a pro-cannabis medical doctor, which you may find, this is going to make the job a lot easier. And this is actually a perfect segue into the last or fifth strategy, which is actually finding a pro-cannabis medical professional. Or whether that's a doctor or a nurse, doesn't matter, as long as they're pro-cannabis and they're medical professional, they know what they're doing. You're always going to be better off working with a professional, right? Not with an amateur. You're always going to be better off working with a professional. Now, I personally believe, and I could be wrong, but I personally believe that this strategy is a bit difficult at the moment, because again, medical cannabis is not that mainstream yet. Like, you can't just walk into a pharmacy, you can't just walk into a clinic, especially, I mean, maybe in the US things are different, but here in Australia, you can't just walk into any one of those locations or establishments and request medical cannabis as a form of treatment. We're not there yet. And I'm sure it's like that for at least 80 to 90% of the world, right? So it's coming, it's coming. It's going to be mainstream. It's going to be very easy to get medical cannabis. It's going to be accepted. We're going to understand exactly how it works. Part of the reason why I'm actually doing this work. But in between now and then, if you do obviously find a pro-cannabis medical professional if you can. I mean, we've got the internet now, so maybe you can do like online Zoom consultations and things like that. But if you're journaling, and if you're doing the things that I mentioned earlier, where you're spacing out, in fact, I would say start by getting a journal. And when you get a journal, when you make that's when you can start recording what you're buying, what the concentration levels are, what you're taking beside it. And then you can say, okay, today I started with CBD oil. I took it at 8. And then at 10, I gave it 2 hours, and I took my Effexor because I felt that I needed it or I didn't need it. You can record all that information and just take it day by day, one day at a time. And then when you eventually do find a pro-cannabis doctor or a pro-cannabis nurse, you're going with that information, and then they can see, okay, this is what you're doing. I can see what's working, and then they can guide you. They can help you dial in what you're actually doing and get better results, because they have a deeper understanding of how this compound actually works. Now, I want to give you an example of a recommendation I found from a nursing practitioner. I believe her name is Tatiana Gonzalez. It was on a website called Hello MD, where she was consulting with a patient who was asking about withdrawal symptoms of SNRIs, and they were looking at using CBD oil cannabis therapy to help with the withdrawal symptoms, because they're trying to the patient's trying to wean off. So this is what the nursing practitioner, this is what Tatiana, the nursing practitioner, had to say. So she was like, look, SNRI withdrawal symptoms can be debilitating and can last up to 3 months or longer. It is recommended to taper off the medication as opposed to abruptly stopping it. Either way, I would advise that it is safe to consume CBD, but stay away from THC as it can induce anxiety during withdrawal. The CBD may help you feel calmer and ease depressive symptoms. I would recommend to start with a very low dosage of CBD, anywhere from 2.5 milligrams to 5 milligrams, and taper up depending on how you feel. You see how more specific and nuanced and informative, or insightful, should I say, that recommendation is. Especially the part with THC. Like, I didn't, with all the research I've done, I didn't know that THC actually may or can induce anxiety. And she clearly says stay away from THC. So what you're looking at, if you're looking at depression and anxiety, then your most suitable form of cannabis therapeutic compounds is broad spectrum CBD, because you get full spectrum, broad spectrum, and isolate, right? So broad spectrum is all the cannabinoids except THC. So you get the entourage effect, you get CBD in there, you get the terpenoids in there, but you just don't have THC. And according to Tatiana here, the professional nursing practitioner, she says that stay away from THC because that could actually induce anxiety during the withdrawal. So that's something I didn't know. That's something we've both learned today. Of course, I learned that, I saw that when I was writing, but even when reading it, it just reinforced the lesson. And that's something for you to possibly consider and take away. So, in closing, where do we land with this? Where do we land? What I want to say is, where I want to land is, I want to reiterate the point that it is very risky to take CBD oil with Effexor XR, especially at the same time. Like, taking those two at the same time, to me, in my view, is super risky. However, you can take CBD oil with Effexor XR, provided you have a strategy like the one we've covered earlier, or the one we've just covered. And also, if you're very careful, so you're being very mindful of the time that it takes for you to metabolize one or the other. Of course, if my goal is to wean off, Effexor, then I would be starting with CBD oil and letting that metabolize first, see what the effects are in relation to dealing with my anxiety and depression, if I had that. And if I can see that it's working and it's helping, it's allowing me not to take the Effexor, then I'll keep going that way. But if I have to take Effexor, then I'll go that way as well. But at least I'm not shocking my body, and I'm not cutting off Effexor cold turkey. Like, I'm easing myself off it, I'm weaning myself off it slowly, right? But yeah, taking them at the same time, not a good idea. You are going to induce competitive inhibition, which will create all sorts of, what word can I use here? All sorts of craziness, negative craziness in your body, in your brain, in your life, right? To heighten, it may intensify, that's what I'm trying to say. It may intensify the existing side effects that you may already be experiencing. It may widen the range of side effects that you're currently experiencing. It may induce or cause you to have Serotonin Syndrome, which comes with its own bag of symptoms. or it may induce or cause you to have liver failure due to liver damage, due to you overwhelming your liver, because all these compounds are broken down by cytochrome P450, the group of enzymes found in your liver. At least 80 to, well, some doctors range say 70, some say 90%, so I just fall on 80% of all pharmaceutical drugs are broken down by your liver by this particular enzyme group of enzymes, right? So if you are looking to wean off, there is hope. Like I mentioned earlier, just follow the strategy. Again, I'm going to come out with a PDF that's going to outline this strategy, and I'm going to outline it in a way that's properly sequential. What step 1, do this, step 2, do this, and I'm going to say why you should do this. So like step 1, in my mind, step 1 is have a journal. Get a journal and a pen. That is step 1, and I'm going to explain why you need to do that. Then step 2, that's when you go and purchase your CBD. I'm gonna lay this all out. I haven't done it right now because of there's a lot on my plate, but of course I am eating off all these things off my plate, one piece at a time, and hopefully by the next episode I should have something prepared for you that you can download and then you can use to guide you. All it is a guide, right? I'm not a medical professional. Okay, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. I'm a guy on the internet who is passionate about helping people find a smoother road to recovery by helping them understand just how safe and effective cannabis therapy is, because a lot of us, if not all of us, actually prey to very harmful prescription drugs, as we've seen in this example that is Effexor XR. So that's why I'm doing it. So I'll have my disclaimers in there. I'm even giving you a disclaimer right now. I'm not a medical professional. You can even take, once it's ready, once you download it, you can, and if you've already got a pro cannabis medical professional you're working with, you can actually take my guide and cross-reference it or cross-check it with your doctor to see if they approve or not. I'm very happy for you to do that. Like, I'm not saying that I have the gospel, I'll be creating the gospel in regards to using CBD oil, but if we can work together, then I believe that will provide you with a very smoother road to recovery as opposed to not working together, right? So other than that, right, the only thing I need to leave off is that if this all makes sense to you, if you are at that stage where you're actually ready to buy some CBD oil, I'd highly recommend you check out the HempNerd CBD shops page, which is basically hempnerd.co/CBD shops. That's hempnerd.co/CBD shops. What I've done there is I've partnered with 4 companies, 4 online CBD retailers who actually ship internationally and provide discreet packaging, who produce CBD oil products with third-party testing and lab test results that you can actually see on their website. If you're in the market to buy some CBD oil, if you go through my links, you will be supporting Hemp Nerd. You will be keeping us alive, and I would really appreciate that as well, so I can continue to bring this kind of information to you, so I can continue to clarify just how safe and effective cannabis therapy is, so you can have a smoother road to recovery. Like that's where it's at for me at the moment. So going through my links would support me continuing to do that into the perpetual future. Hopefully it's you might even fall in love with one of the brands that we're working with. If there are any brands you'd recommend that I should work with, I'd love to hear about it. Let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, let me know in the comments below. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts or Spotify or whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, send me an email at hempnerd.co@gmail.com. I'm going to get a more professional one pretty soon, but for now it's hempnerd.co@gmail.com. Hopefully I should get one in the next couple of weeks. I should add that to my plate, which is pretty full at the moment, but I'll add that to my plate. But send me an email or comment in the description below if there is a CBD oil company I should be working with, in regards in an affiliate partnership sort of way that provides international shipping,
discreet packaging. They've got a very strong product. I mean, these guys I'm working with have a strong product. So far, so good. But if there's anyone else I should have on my radar, I'll be more than happy for you to let me know so I can reach out to them and see if we can actually do something together. Anyway, that is it for today's episode. I really appreciate your time watching or listening to me today. Hopefully today, if you're not subscribed already, I have actually earned your subscription. If not, hopefully I'll be able to earn it in the next episode of the Hemp Nerd podcast. For now, take care, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.